What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the most impressive specific skills in MMA. Now, I'm not talking about certain martial arts, boxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. I'm going to be talking about very specific individual moves that certain fighters do very, very well and are able to pull off in every single one of their matchups to a high level. So without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. The first specific skill that I will be going over is going to be Jose Aldo's takedown defense. I think that Jose Aldo's takedown defense is one of the most impressive skills we've ever seen in all of MMA. Nobody's able to take this dude down. Jose Aldo literally has a 92% takedown defense rate stat, and realistically, most of those takedowns he's probably not even getting controlled with, and they're taking into consideration all of his WEC fights as well. You can't remember the last time that Jose Aldo got taken down. He never gets taken down, even in his last fight, an older version of Jose Aldo, where he's not in his prime anymore. I wouldn't say he's washed, but definitely not a prime version. He's still not getting taken down by these younger fighters like Mario Bautista, who are just constantly shooting on him, and he's able to defend every single one. And it's just wildly impressive to me. And unfortunately, this has cost him some fights where he's not able to get off the fence, but he's never getting taken down whatsoever. The last time I think I can even remember Jose Aldo getting taken down was against Petr Yan after taking a mean right hand that rocked him badly. He was probably going to go down from a knockdown regardless, and Petr Yan was able to take him down. And Petr Yan has great wrestling, but like I said, Jose Aldo was already hurt on the feet. That's the last time I can remember Jose Aldo getting taken down. Jose Aldo fought Merab, the most built different, fucking running on motor oil, EPO cardio monster that we've ever seen in the sport. Merab shooting to his legs every single second of that fight, and Jose Aldo defended every single one of them. That's just wildly impressive to me. Petr Yan not able to stop him. Henry Cejudo, Olympic gold medalist, not able to stop him. I mean, Sugar Sean O'Malley, really quick footwork, hard to get on the inside against, couldn't stop Merab. Umar Nurmagomedov, Khabib 3.0, wasn't able to stop Merab taking him down. He did good, but we'll talk about that fight on a later date. I actually thought they'd definitely make the argument that Umar got the first 3 rounds and maybe should have won a 48-47, but that's besides the point. The fact that Umar Nurmagomedov, someone who trains with Khabib, has been training under Abdulmanap with Khabib, Islam, Usman his entire life. He has an excellent grappling base. He wasn't able to stop Merab with the grappling, and Jose Aldo was. And dude, Jose Aldo has mastered the art of takedown defense. If you look at his stats throughout his career, yeah, he'll have 1 or 2 takedowns given up way earlier in his career, like against Frankie Edgar in the first fight. It said that Frankie Edgar got 2 takedowns on him. Yeah, he probably got him down for a second, but Jose Aldo always pops right back up. And I think that Jose Aldo's takedown defense is the best we've ever seen in the sport. It's been tested and proven against the most difficult opponent in Merab to exercise that skill against, and it held up in that fight. And to me, that is just wildly impressive. After Merab and Umar fought, all I could think about was, holy shit, Jose Aldo's takedown defense is one of the best skills we've ever seen in all of MMA. And I think that he definitely should get a lot of credit for that. Because we think of Jose Aldo, really good boxing, he's a great striker, good leg kicks, but his takedown defense is the best part of his game, because whenever you're breaking down a Jose Aldo fight, all you're really thinking about is who's going to win the striking exchanges, because you never even have to worry about him getting taken down and controlled on the mat. So yeah, our first most impressive individual skill, Jose Aldo's takedown defense. He was able to stop Merab, and that is just ridiculously impressive. When he was even kind of an older fighter at that point, he was able to come back and get a win and still looked good in his 2 fights he's had this year. But that was, still an older version of Jose Aldo, and he was still able to stuff every single takedown from Merab. So Jose Aldo's takedown defense is an absolute brick wall. Our next most impressive skill that I'll be covering is going to be Jonathan Martinez's leg kicks. Now, you think of leg kicks in the UFC, Alex Pereira, Justin Gaethje, these guys do implement low kicks very, very well. But in terms of someone who is able to implement it in every single fight, and almost in every single fight, win, lose, or draw, this skill will be able to come through for him and be very, very effective. Kind of like Jose Aldo. Even if he doesn't win the fight, he's not getting taken down. And with Jonathan Martinez, even if he's not winning the fight, he's still going to fuck up your leg. He's made, his entire career based off that leg kick, basically. You look back at the Cub Swanson fight, did very, very well kicking on all three levels in that fight. And he was able to absolutely destroy the leg of Cub Swanson. I think he even injured his knee with that leg kick that ultimately finished the fight. Jonathan Martinez, he's up there with Edson Barboza, the two guys in the UFC who have 2 leg kick TKO stoppages. So that really goes to show that he's very good at cutting down people's legs. Like I said, the Cub Swanson fight got a leg kick TKO there against a crafty vet. And in the Adrian Yanez fight, literally didn't throw any other strike other than a leg kick and won with a TKO via leg kick damage. And, Adrian Yanez is a good fighter. Other fighters that have tried to leg kick him, yeah, they'll leg kick him, but they're not finishing the fight with it. Jonathan Martinez must have shins made of steel, because the Cub Swanson TKO with the leg kicks, the Adrian Yanez TKO with the leg kicks, very, very brutal stoppages, and his opponents have to be in a lot of pain. And like I said, win, lose, or draw, he's always able to implement them. You look back at his last fight versus Marcus McGee. Even though he lost that fight and actually looked pretty bad in that fight, I picked Marcus McGee there. Jonathan Martinez was still able to have Marcus McGee jumping around on one leg, limping in the 3rd round once he finally started focusing on that low kick. I'm convinced that if Jonathan Martinez simply just low kick spammed, he would never lose a fight. But, just looking in his career, hurt Marcus McGee badly with him, used him pretty good against Said Nurmagomedov, and of course, stopping the fight against Cub Swanson and Adrian Yanez. I think that Jonathan Martinez still has the best leg kicks in all of MMA. He doesn't have the great, well-rounded skill set to be able to implement them like a Justin Gaethje or an Alex Pereira, but I think pure leg kicks, Jonathan Martinez is just disgusting with them, and I think that he has the most impressive leg kicks in MMA. Our next skill that I will be talking about is going to be one of my favorites, Petr Yan's sweeps. Dude, Petr Yan, the way he sweeps somebody with his Muay Thai sweeps or that step through body trip that he does, it's just so satisfying and clean. And he's able to do it to almost every single opponent. Like I said, one of the factors that goes into this is that these fighters are going to have to use this skill in every single one of their fights effectively. And Petr Yan, this is kind of a fancier move. You think about Jose Aldo's takedown defense, Jonathan Martinez's leg kicks. These are kind of bread and butter moves that you're always going to use in any fight. Petr Yan's hitting highlight reel Thai sweeps on guys out here, looking like a maestro. You look back at the Uriah Faber win, hit Uriah Faber with it a few times. In the Aljamain Sterling fight, the first one that is, he was dumping Aljamain Sterling all over the place, tossing him around like a fucking baseball out in the front yard. It was a joy to watch. Did it on Jose Aldo. And Jose Aldo, he's a guy with really good Muay Thai as well. I remember Petr Yan catching a kick in that fight and landing a really good sweep. Did it to Sean O'Malley, sat him on his ass, still got robbed in that fight. And even in his last fight versus Davidson Figueiredo, a guy with really good grappling, Petr Yan was hitting that. He hit it, I believe, in the 3rd and the 4th round. Made me really happy to see my boy Peter going out there and putting on a show with his Thai sweeps like he did in his beautiful prime winning streak before he went on that losing streak. But I think that Petr Yan's tie sweeps are some of the most satisfying and beautiful specific moves you can ever see in a UFC octagon. So I think that Petr Yan sweeps are definitely worth a mention here. You know, when you're thinking about Petr Yan, you're thinking about the beautiful combinations, the boxing, the uppercuts, but don't forget about those tie sweeps. Those are one of my favorite things to see him implement into a fight. And he's able to pull it off against super high level fighters, you know, championship caliber fighters, Sean O'Malley, Davidson Figueiredo, Jose Aldo. That is super impressive and high level to me. And it's one of my favorite skills to see get displayed in MMA. So gotta love Petr Yan for that. Our next specific skill is going to be the one and only Alexander Volkanovski's submission defense. Now, you may have less examples on a fight-to-fight basis for this specific skill, mainly because Volk has fought some strikers, but he has fought some very, very high-level submission artists, and he was able to show world-class submission defense. You think back to the Brian Ortega fight. Locked up in the tightest guillotine you've ever seen in your entire life, head turning purple as a plum, and Volkanovski still bit down on the mouthpiece, gritted through it, and was able to escape that position, showing his championship heart and his iron will. You look at, even later in that fight, Brian Ortega wrapped up a pretty tight triangle attempt. Volk still iron will, was able to fight through it and get through that position. And Brian Ortega, he's a guy with very, very good submissions. Submitted Yair Rodriguez, submitted Renato Moicano, just to name a few. So being able to get out of those submission attempts against a very high level BJJ black belt in Brian Ortega, that goes to show that Volk has very impressive submission defense and also just the heart of a lion. Never quits even in a horrible situation like he was in against Brian Ortega. So you have those two examples in the Ortega fight. And let's talk about the Islam Makhachev 1 fight. He even said it on his interview with Lucas Tracy. I forgot the exact context in which he said it, but he basically was like, I was chilling in the grips of Islam Makhachev.
You know what I mean? Your talent, you're not going to see them smile in the grips of Islam Makhachev. You know what I mean? It's
Who else does that? Who else is chilling in the grips of Islam Makhachev, one of the most dangerous grapplers in the entire sport? You know, submits DP, submits Renato Moicano, subs Charles Oliveira, most submissions in UFC history. Not Volk. Volk was sitting there looking up at the crowd, screaming at him, fucking punching him in the face from the back position, and that was just a great moment to see. Volk lost that fight handily, but the submission defense was definitely on display at a very high level. The fact that Islam was able to get his back multiple times, take him down multiple times, and never get a submission or even get in a submission attempt, that goes to show that Volkanovski, his specifics that he trains with Craig Jones and all of this, it definitely pays off in the octagon, because Volkanovski, obviously, he does have the heart of a lion and will never quit on himself, but I think that his submission defense is one of his best attributes and one of the most impressive skills that we see in the UFC. All right, our next specific skill that I'll be going over here is going to be Alex Pereira's left hook. Shama no Shama, Alex Pereira by knockout. Look, Alex Pereira has some pretty terrible fans. You know, when Alex was first getting on the scene, you know, when he was fighting Sean Strickland, Izzy, the fan base wasn't unbearable at that point yet. But since he's been up at 205, mainly since UFC 300, his fan base has accumulated some really undesirable characters, and people just think Pereira's invincible. I'll give my Magomed Ankalaev and Alex Pereira prediction at a later date, but you can't talk about best specific skills in MMA without talking about Alex Poatan Pereira's left hook of doom. He's literally able to hit it on everybody. You don't have to go into the X's and O's too much on this one. He has a big Brazilian left hook and it always fucking works. You look back at his Glory kickboxing days, knocking out Dustin Jacoby, Israel Adesanya, 1,000 other people with it back in Glory, and now in the UFC, If Alex Pereira is knocking somebody out, it's literally almost always a left hook. Even when I've been trying to predict Alex Pereira's fights in the past, I'll try and get cute with it. Oh yeah, I think he can land a head kick. I think he can land a right hand. It's always the left hook. It's always a left hook. His opponents know it's coming, but they can't fucking stop it. It's kind of like Aaron Robin cutting in from the right wing back in the day in Bayern Munich in his prime. If you get that reference, leave a comment. But yeah, Alex Pereira, his left hook, you literally can't stop it. His opponents know it's coming, but his timing, his power, everything about it, the accuracy is all perfect. That's how he was able to knock out Sean Strickland. That's how he was able to knock out Israel Adesanya. Landed it hella on Jan Blachowicz. Was able to knock out Yuri Prochazka in the first fight with it. Was able to knock out Jamal Hill with it. Was able to knock down Yuri in the second fight with it. Basically finished Khalil Roundtree with the liver shot, the little right uppercut he threw behind it. Basically didn't do anything. It was that left hook to the liver that really finished it off. So you look at all of his fights, basically every single one except for the Bruno Silva and the Jan Blachowicz fight. Basically every single one of those fights he's had, he's won with a left hook. And yeah, at this point, it's no secret that that is basically the atomic bomb of the UFC. You can't get hit with it or you will go out. But yeah, of course, Alex Pereira's left hook has to be mentioned. It's one of the best weapons in all of combat sports history. The last thing I will be going over is not necessarily a skill, but it's something that has been weaponized. So we'll go ahead and throw it into the skill category. The fighter that I'm talking about actually isn't very skilled at all. But the more you watch MMA, the more you realize that skill really doesn't mean that much. Merab Dvalishvili is the fighter that I'm talking about. Merab Dvalishvili is a terrible striker. Yeah, he's got some takedowns. He's got a good double leg, a good single leg, but that's about it. Can't hold anybody down once he takes him there. Can't hold anybody down. Can't finish the fight with a submission. Has no jiu-jitsu whatsoever. And he has no power on the feet. Not super athletic. You know, he's not the fastest. He's not the tallest. He doesn't have a great reach. Doesn't really have too many advantages on paper, right? You'd think a guy that can't strike, can't really hold people down, can't sub anybody, wouldn't be winning too many fights, right? Wrong. He's actually the best bantamweight of all time and has beaten some of the most skilled fighters we've ever seen in the octagon. Merab Dvalishvili simply has grit and determination, the Mamba mentality, the willingness to win, whatever you want to call it, heart, iron will. Merab has it. I'll just call it grit. But aside from the X's and O's, aside from the takedown defense and the kicks and the punches and the sweeps and everything in between, all the technicalities of MMA that we love to talk about, none of that matters when you fight Merab because he has the X factor and his skill is pure grit. I've literally lost over $1,000 betting on Merab Dvalishvili, but I can't even hate the guy because he literally wants it more than everybody else. He wants it more than everybody else. Doesn't matter if he's at a skill disadvantage. He will run through you, move forward until you get tired, and he never gasses out. You can hit him with the kitchen sink. You can hit him with 10 head kicks on his right eye like Umar did. Still comes forward like a zombie, marauding. Sean O'Malley hits him with the knee right on the chin. That doesn't even deter him for a second. Back in on the legs. He literally shot a takedown about every 5 seconds in the Umar Nurmagomedov fight in the last round. Ridiculously impressive. Like I said, was able to just hold Jose Aldo, one of the most difficult people to control in MMA history. Held him against the fence the entire fight. Peter Yan, you could make the argument, you could really make the argument that Peter Yan is one of, if not the most skilled fighter we've ever seen in all of MMA. Merab Dvalishvili 50-45'd him. With no tools, no skills on paper, just a pure Georgian willingness to win and a determination that will not be stopped. Moves forward, grabs the single leg, dumps you on your head, lets you back up, grabs the single leg, dumps you on your head, lets you back up. It's just completely it's just completely inevitable that he's going to be able to break guys with his pressure. I don't know who would be able to stop this guy. Let Pantoja come up and try and sub him, I guess, but Pantoja will lose. I'm never picking against Merab again in my entire life. I don't care if he's 40 years old fighting, you know, somebody that's in their prime. He's probably going to win. He's like an old fucking wood splitter or an old fucking weed eater in the garage that you've had for 20 fucking years that shouldn't work anymore. You know, it's got no oil in it, no gas in it. The fucking motor hasn't ever been replaced. It's 20 years old, has mold on the fucking inside of it. But it's one of those old machines, dude, like his walkout when those gear sound started playing. And it's like an old machine that you can crank up and it's always gonna fucking run. It's always gonna fucking turn on and it's gonna run. It's gonna put the work in like an old wood splitter or an old weed eater or something like that. Merab Dvalishvili is literally built like a fucking motor out of an old tractor that will never stop. And he's able to just pressure these guys against the fence, take shots on the forehead, and melt guys that have every single skill advantage on paper. And that within itself is a skill, truly, because nobody has been able to solve this problem. Literally every single stylistic matchup that you could possibly put against Merab, he has succeeded against. Jose Aldo, perfect takedown defense. Master of Muay Thai, gritty boxing, 30-27 Merab. Peter Yan, kind of the same thing. Has good wrestling of his own. He can sneak in high kicks. He's got great clinch work, really good boxing, uppercuts to deter the takedowns. Doesn't matter. 50-45 Merab. Sugar Sean O'Malley, beautiful footwork, excellent counter striking, a good teep up the middle to keep the distance. Very good jiu-jitsu to threaten off the bottom. Doesn't matter. 48-47 Merab. Henry Cejudo, Olympic gold medalist. He should be able to out-wrestle Merab. He's cleaner in the striking. He should win this fight. Doesn't matter. Merab's picking him up on his shoulder, carrying him around like a fucking bag of groceries. Umar Nurmagomedov, excellent striking. Khabib 3.0, Dagestani grappling. He should be able to take him down and sub him, right? No. Merab purely wants it more. He will not be denied. And his grit and willingness to win is just the most impressive thing I've ever seen in combat sports history. I don't give a fuck. It's more impressive than any skill, any technicality that can be taught. Merab's grit is on a different level. And I won't lie, even after watching UFC 311, I can't lie, I was pissed off. I lost a lot of money betting against Merab. A lot of money betting against Merab. But I was mad for a little bit. And I saw this post of him after his first ever MMA fight with Ray Longo and Matt Serra there. And I was like, man, Merab deserves this. What would Merab have in his life if he wasn't a gremlin, EPO freak, cardio monster UFC champion? He's low-key ugly as fuck, probably isn't the sharpest tool in the box, probably isn't very smart. Realistically, if Merab wasn't a UFC champion, he'd probably be working construction, no wife, no kids. He'd probably have a pretty sad life. And I was just looking at this young picture of him. He's just another person, man. He's just another person. And that's a guy that wanted it. You know, that's a guy that put in the work and he wanted it and he got to where he was aiming for. And I'm proud of him at the end of the day, because I've literally wished death upon him in his last two fights where I've bet against him. But you know what? Merab Dvalishvili deserves it more than anybody. I remember, you know, looking at that old picture of him with Matt Serra and Ray Longo there. I'm like, this is just a regular dude who wants it. And, you know, he doesn't have anything else going for him in life. What else does he have going for him in life? Nothing. And that realistically is the best base for MMA. Just purely wanting it more than the opponents. And Merab, he's a humble guy. Seems like a nice fella. And, you know, I think that he doesn't deserve all the hate that he gets. I think people are starting to come around. I've definitely been a Merab hater. I hate that he's won his last two fights, that's for sure. But at the end of the day, he's just a guy that worked his way up. He wanted it. And he's just a normal guy. You know, I kind of feel bad about wishing so much pain upon him in his last two fights. And he set the record straight, man. He made me eat my words with my shit that I've been talking about him. And he's just a young lad that worked his way up to the top and was able to break through. And like I said, if he didn't have the UFC championship in his life, you know, pretty ugly, not very smart, he probably wouldn't have a wife or kids or anything like that. He'd probably have a pretty depressing life. So at the end of the day, I'm glad that little kid that had blood all over his face after his first MMA fight with Ray and Matt Serra there, I'm glad he got to the top at the end of the day, because he deserves it more than anybody, because he simply wants it more than anybody. So thank you guys for watching the video. If you enjoyed, leave a like, a comment, subscribe. I would appreciate that greatly, and have a great rest of your day.